Welcome, friends. Welcome, family. What's going on, Ma? Actually, it's also about Dad today. You guys, first of all, welcome to another live version of the Watch Party on the Watch List. Just our little impromptu live that I've decided to start doing a lot more because I love doing it. I love interacting with you guys. I love going through the stories in a way that allows me to just kind of free flow it a little bit more. But as I mentioned, I said, "What's up, Ma?" But also, Pops. Want to give a shout out to my father. It's his birthday today. He's turning 80 years old. Yeah, the old man. What's going on, Coco Sage? The old man's turning 80 years old. For as you guys come in, I'll let you guys know. Again, there's only a few of you guys here so far, but I'm gonna let you guys know. Today, the old man Jackson's birthday. He's 80 years old today. Happy birthday to my father, and hello to my mother who just texted me. Look, bro, you guys, I've been doing this. What? This is the third day of this? Fourth day. I did it Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, this Friday. Um, just got a text. Mother's like, "Yo, where are you at, bro?" I thought it was a watch party and a Friday watch party at that. I want to ask you guys first as you guys file in because I want you guys to all get the full experience of the watch party. This can't be a party. Happy birthday to the Pops. Absolutely. Um, this is only water. But on Fridays, I want to do this a long time ago. On Fridays, I want to do like a what's your drink? What are you drinking on? When we did like evening shows, maybe you have a little bit of a drink on you, but it's still the middle of the day and many of you guys are at work. So we can't go that route. I mean, but it's a free country. If you want to, go ahead and let me know what you guys are drinking on stage. I mean, maybe it's water, maybe it's soda, maybe it's a nice coffee. Either way it goes, it's a Friday version of the watch party as we lead right in to the TDR episode for another Friday as well. You guys keep letting these guys know over those watch dragons or whatever the hell they're calling themselves now on the damage report. We've got a watch party going. Uh, as you guys saw from the title, there's a couple of topics that are bugging me today. Actually, the only one I mentioned was Zohran Mamdani, and the reaction we've got from so many people in our country. Mamdani making the rich cry, 100%. There's lots of tears, there's lots of anger, and oh boy, there's all kinds of racism and Islamophobia. They can't take it. There's something that, when America talks about land of the free, home of the brave, melting pot, you come here, bring your tired, you're hungry, you're weak. We make sure we take in all immigrants and they make contributions to our country to make it great and what it is. When those folks come in or those folks don't look like what you expect those people to be, suddenly it's a problem. That's what we're dealing with. So, hey, there's my. I wanted to ramble for a few minutes before I actually jumped in so you guys could at least get the beginnings of this whole story. Zohran Mamdani won the Democratic primary, of course, over Andrew Cuomo and many others, several others. And now they're very upset about it. Everyone's pissed off. Well, the people who want to continue to have the same go at the same power hungry people that they've got. One of those being Eric Adams, and his ass ran over to Fox News for some reason. Actually, I know the reason, but he ran over to Fox News to complain about it and have them help him with his process of trying to deal with him having to go up against Zohran Mamdani. The way that they tried to pose as a problem.
Mr. Mayor, it's not just defund the police. This candidate, Democratic Socialist, he wants to freeze the rent. He wants city-run grocery stores, social workers to replace the police because that's going to help. He wants $60 billion of debt fund for affordable housing. He wants free buses, no cost for childcare, baby baskets for newborn, and a $30 minimum wage. How can someone vote for this?
What a monster. What a monster this guy is. He wants all these things that people would actually pay for. The tons of money that people pay in taxes already. I hear conservatives always talk about how these high taxed states like New York, California, how they're always getting taxed so high. But people should get something for what they're taxed for, right? And maybe not continue to give away their money to rich folks who don't contribute anywhere near the level that the rest of society contributes to our society. They don't. So when they talk about free buses, I'll bring this back up for a second. Some of the lists that they had of the fear mongering list that, oh my God, nobody's bus routes. When they say free, again, free, that means it's been paid for already. It doesn't mean there's no money at all coming from it. It means we paid and our money is used for things that actually help our lives. Stop buying into that whole mindset that anything that they call is free and you're freeloading and these entitlements, those are things we paid for. That's the trick that's been pulled on us for so many years. So it's not free buses. It's our money going towards busing being something we don't have to pay for as we step on every time. Just to point that out. No cost childcare, baby baskets to newborns. Can you believe it? They want to push this whole thing about everyone have more babies, more babies, more babies. Let's limit everyone's abortion rights. Let's have more babies, more babies, more babies. Who cares if they no one can take care of these babies? Let's just have them. It's again an unprincipled group of folks. So they're mad about it on Fox News. You know, that's pretty clear. But there's more folks that specifically came out just outside some of those policies. Some of those folks that actually came out, see Mamdani's face, hear his voice, see some of his policies, and boy, they can't separate it from just looking at his face, that original thing. Let's go with Andy Ogles. I think you guys may have heard about this guy. He's a piece of garbage. He's a huge piece of garbage. But he put this on this quick video of Zohran Mamdani from several months ago, I think at the beginning, right when Tom Homan, Trump's border czar, his mass deportation czar, came and had a talk, and Mamdani gave him a few pieces of his mind through this crowd. And boy, were they mad about this. So still, Andy Ogles is still using this particular moment to act like this is a danger to society.
How many more New Yorkers are not charged? Do you believe in the First Amendment? Do you believe in the First Amendment, Tom Homan? How many more New Yorkers are not charged?
Do you believe in the First Amendment? Do you believe in the First Amendment, Tom Homan? Tom Homan, who's going around now pulling off the things that he was promising to do then, deport people, American citizens, as well, out of the country. Now we got this third country provision that the Supreme Court has also allowed them to pull forward. But that's supposed to be scary because the guy with the beard is yelling at the guy who's mumble mouth and is an actual terrorist terrorizing Americans in their own country every day. That guy's okay. But if you yell at him, if you pull up the First Amendment and bring it up to what he's violating to his face, that's a problem. And somehow Andy Ogles took that moment and what he tweeted was deport little Muhammad. I think what they're probably afraid of, though, is what Zohran Mamdani talks about. He was on Zateo News, and he was there with Cynthia Nixon, and she was interviewing him, and she asked about some of these things that are happening. Some of his policies were talking about keeping us from continuing to fund this destructive genocide in Gaza of innocent Palestinian people. That's the scary part, by the way, because there aren't too many politicians, I don't care which side of the aisle they're from, that are afraid to talk about what's really happening, our support for this ongoing genocide. This is a very big aspect of it, which I knew nothing about. But as he spreads the word to other people who knew nothing about these policies, that's the fear that these folks have. I want you guys to pay attention to this 1 to 2 minutes of him explaining what it is that's happening with these New York charities and how they're funding more of the killing in Gaza.
Can you give us some of the maybe more shocking or surprising things that this New York subsidized funding is going toward, and things that might surprise people watching this, or might even perhaps surprise people who are donating to those said charities?
Yes, I think there are sadly too many examples, and I can begin with one charity that is based on Long Island, known as the One Israel Fund. And over just a few months, they raised more than $2 million, typically the amount of money they would raise in an entire year. But they managed to do that in just 60 to 90 days. And they raised that money for thermal drones and surveillance cameras for settlers. And in a video that they released, one of the individuals who was thanking this charity by name, the One Israel Fund, for a drone is the same individual that has been named in President Biden's sanction of violent settlers. So we have the president saying this is somebody who should be facing the full accountability of American law, and then the refusal to apply that to state law means that same person is benefiting from tax-exempt status being bestowed upon this organization. We have other charities registered.
Pause for a second. That's example number one. I'm not sure if you guys fully picked it up, but we're talking about these New York charities that send in American money after they collect them for charity purposes in order to give, in this particular first case, drones to folks that are killing folks and using it, obviously weaponized drones, to kill folks that they want to push out of their settlements, out of their homes. And one of these folks, specifically by American federal law, as they said, with not law, but as Joe Biden put forward. Someone who should be put on this list of folks that's a danger gets access to it with charity money. Here's the second part about it.
In New York, like Israel Gives, a crowdfunding platform that allows people to donate with tax deduction to the Israeli military, including units that are currently serving in Gaza, carrying out a genocide. And this is something that is all occurring with the tacit permission of New York law. And I would say the most stunning example, though, comes from a charity that is raising money for pistol to rifle converters to send to settlers, to take a weapon that could already take someone's life and enhance its capabilities. And these are not intellectual fears that we have. These are ones that are applied on a day-to-day basis, where hundreds of Palestinians have been killed by the military and Israeli settlers over the last few months. And some of them will likely be killed by weapons that we in New York have facilitated the sending of.
A version of this bill was initially introduced.
So what about that is acceptable? I mean, that's what people are afraid of. The fact that he's bringing forward these types of things that are happening, I had no clue. But the problem with folks that are in power, that like to control other people's lives and, in fact, use our money in nefarious ways to continue the killing of innocent folks, they don't want people to know how the money is flowing. That's the reason why they don't want to teach the history of our own country, because of how we've done things and destroyed other nations, targeted our own citizens, that spread the word, that do real life things to help the people that we always tell that we're about lifting up and being able to go through the pipeline of success and opportunity in this country. But there's always barriers. That's why people don't like terms like systemic racism, the way the system keeps certain people down. Well, here's someone that they don't like at all. And there's a system that also, as I brought up, Andy Ogles wants to put into place to make sure that he can't spread too much more of that truth. I think he just made the big things that people did see. Andy Ogles said, Zohran Little Muhammad Mamdani is an anti-Semitic socialist communist. He just went through them all. Maoist, maybe, who will destroy the great city of New York. He needs to be deported, which is why I'm calling for him to be subject to denaturalization proceedings. Andy Ogles is a sore-ass loser. Once again, Andy Ogles is in Tennessee. Andy Ogles is not some representative from New York. He's from Tennessee. So now he's involved with the mayoral race in New York City, and he's upset. So he wants the denaturalization process to be begun on Zohran Mamdani because he won. What a loser you are. You kind of suck at this. It wasn't the only thing, though, because Andy Ogles is a proud racist. He's a proud piece of garbage. Also posted this. Deport bye-bye, little Mamdani. If you lied on your N-400 naturalization forms, you're going home. Because he's a tough guy. Let's see the picture a little bit larger if I can get it bigger. There it is. So he's a cartoon character. He's got the American flag on his tie, and he's got a big hand up in front of this very scary Muslim, and Zohran written in certain kinds of, hey, listen, bro, if you continue to show people who you are, they're going to find out that you're one of those piece of garbage people. One of the folks that everyone said this whole MAGA movement was about, and you denied that whole time. Well, now that they're in power, they have no reason to try and deny it anymore. They think it's cool. They think it's fun. But not only that, Andy Ogles, Representative Andy Ogles, wants to talk about someone who's going to destroy the country, who's dishonest. I'm not sure if you guys remember this, but there was a couple folks, I was one of them, that was talking about the ethical problems with Andy Ogles. I want to start with Rachel Maddow, though, because this is, again, I think back in January, Andy Ogles stepped into Congress, and now they found out many things about his background, specifically about his resume. No, this is not George Santos, who was actually from New York. This is Andy Ogles, who did similar things. Watch this.
We've also got this gentleman, Tennessee Republican Congressman Andy Ogles. Mr. Ogles has described himself multiple times as an economist. Now, what is an economist, really? Who can say? They call it the dismal science for a reason. But you might guess, at a minimum, that if you're going to call yourself an economist, that implies you have some training in economics. Alas, no. News Channel 5 WTVF in Nashville has looked into that and discovered that, in fact, Congressman Andy Ogles has no degree in economics. WTVF found that Mr. Ogles in his life has taken a grand total of 1 community college course in economics, which he barely passed. And that was the extent of his collegiate work in the subject. Congressman Ogles also said that he graduated from Vanderbilt's Graduate Business School, which would be very impressive. In reality, he reportedly took executive education classes, which is a short-term non-degree program where you get a certificate. Thanks for showing up. Not actually a graduate degree, which requires years of commitment. Congressman Andy Ogles also claimed that he was a former member of law enforcement who worked in international sex crimes, specifically child trafficking. That experience in law enforcement maybe was him serving for 2 years as a volunteer reserve deputy in one county sheriff's office, a volunteer position from which, according to WTVF, he was released because he didn't meet the minimum standards even for that. For good measure, that sheriff's office said that Congressman Ogles had no involvement in international sex crimes. Congressman Ogles also claimed to have a degree in international relations. Turns out that too is a lie. And he's sort of now admitting that that's horse hockey. A little over a week ago, his office was saying it was a simple case of condensing a resume for the sake of brevity on the campaign trail. And it's partisan hacks who are trying to turn this into a headline for clicks. That was last week. Now, this week, we have a new explanation for his claim that he earned a degree in international relations. The congressman today released a statement saying, I previously stated my degree was in international relations. When I pulled up my transcript to verify, I realized I was mistaken. My degree, turns out, is in liberal studies. I apologize for my misstatement.
Lied over and over and over and over again on his resume. Now as a congressman, lied over and over and over again. And by the way, for anyone who went to college and had degrees, did you forget what degree you got? Did you forget? Did you have to check your transcripts to discover what was it that I studied for all that time? Oh, my bad. I actually put the exact complete wrong degree on my resume because I had just misstated it. I forgot all about it. My bad. I graduated from college in 2002. Bro, I remember what I studied. It was a long time ago. I remember what I studied. It's weird that people can't remember what they studied. I remember that I started as a mechanical engineer major. Then I switched after the first year. I was like, this is some... I stopped doing it. And then I moved on to the journalism degree as my minor, in history, social sciences as my major. It's weird that it's weird that I remember that. But people like Andy Ogles can forget it because he's a liar. But he has a problem with Zohran Mamdani because he's going to take over the world. Oh my God, I can't believe he has a beard. Hey, here's this one guy with really bad lighting that said more things about it. Let's see if I can bring this up well. This guy with really bad lighting, more things the Ogles did. Andy Ogles is a fraud. Andy Ogles is up for an FBI investigation into a $320,000 campaign contribution that they investigated because dude didn't have $320,000 of his own money to loan to himself. So he's being investigated. And he's hoping that, as we've all seen since 2015 when Donald Trump came into office, that if you bribe, if you rub his chin a little bit, dude's gonna give you anything he wants. If you say, hey, I'll be your friend. Hey, there's your ass. Where can I kiss it? Suddenly he's gonna do anything you want. So Andy Ogles, who then is under this Office of Congressional Ethics investigation into that $320,000 that he then amended and said it was only $20,000. Then they find out later that there was no $320,000 loan. We're trying to figure out where this money came from. He would like this investigation to go away. Similar to Matt Gaetz and how he went after the former Speaker of the House, McCarthy, because he didn't make an investigation go away. That's not all of it. It's not even all of it. So again, a campaign violation $320,000 loan that he said he gave to himself that he actually didn't. So who knows where that came from? And lastly, about Andy Ogles and his mass laundry list of corruption, lies, and misidentification of who he is. He also raised tens of thousands of dollars through a GoFundMe account that featured the profile of a stillborn baby. Again, these are Republicans that are talking about the sanctity of life, but he pictured a stillborn baby. The page was used to raise money to build a burial garden for the child. So a local Nashville station was talking to him about this. He answered after other people that gave money, I think gave him up to $25,000 for this burial ground for people who've lost children before they were born. And it's a very touchy, tough subject. But the problem is no one knew whatever happened to that money. There was no burial ground ever built. People checked with the cemetery to see if any of that was done. They said there's been no coordination with him. He just took up $25,000 after posting a picture of a stillborn baby and then saying, I need the cash. Maybe it went to his campaign contributions. Who knows? But people are trying to find out. And when they did try to find out, he ran and jumped into an SUV and didn't say anything. But one of those donors said that they were left with gnawing questions about how their money had been used, especially after the reporting revealed that he had misrepresented his education. So as I always say, once you've been proven to be a complete and utter liar, especially as someone like a politician who has money, power, and control, that people might not trust you on anything else that you do. And Andy Ogles continues to prove that case. He's a liar, but he's very afraid of Zohran Mamdani. I'm sorry, I almost got off of who we're talking about. Let's move on to people who are worried about their money in New York City. Joe Kernan over CNBC. Here's his issues with Zohran Mamdani too.
Gotham. Have you seen what Batman is up against in Gotham and what the guy running for mayor is up against? That's what it reminds me of. They're taking Wall Streeters and making them walk out onto the ice in the East River as in hope, and then they fall through.
Yeah,
I mean, there is a class warfare that's going.
So what's happened here, I think,
eat
is
the rich type.
there's a division within the Democrat.
Gotham. Have you seen?
There's a Joe Kernan from CNBC said there's a class warfare thing going on where I don't know if you guys have seen that Batman movie. I've seen that part of it. I don't watch tons of them, where the rebels took over the city. It's run by the criminals now, and they're ushering out all of the rich people who have been criminalizing everyone else in the city by taking all their money and using it whichever ways they want, using their money, power, and control to destroy other people's lives, and they're walking them out on the Hudson. Either you get shot here, I think they said in this new criminal court of law, either you get shot here or you take your chances on the ice. And of course, everyone falls through the thin ice. And Joe Kernan is worried that that's going to happen because 75-year-old Joe Kernan is afraid of a storyline from Batman happening in New York City because Mamdani won the primary. I just want to stop and think about that. These are people who give economic advice and talk about the stocks every day because that's what he's worried about. If they lose any money in their entire process for siphoning fake money from everyone else's lives, then it's a Batman situation. Which Batman is that? You guys got to let me know. But there's one other thing that this idiot said. He was talking to Elizabeth Warren, and she said his ass straight. Another aspect of what he's afraid of now happening.
We don't have a lot of time left. Do you think he's a socialist? He's a self-avowed socialist. Do you think socialism is the correct path to do what you just said you wanted to do for working Americans? Do you? I mean, that's what he is. Let's just talk about, and we're the center of the universe for capitalism in New York City. And Wall Street, whether you love it or hate it, I know it has a connotation in certain areas, but it's the financial engine for all the great things that happen in the U.S. in terms of the private sector and raising money for companies and the stock market. All these great things that provide all the jobs, that's where you get the tax money to spend on all these great things you want to spend it on. You think that's the right thing for New York City?
You don't have to push me. I believe in markets. I love markets. I think markets are fabulous when they're honest markets. As you know, because we've had these discussions before. For example, we need markets with rules. Markets without rules are just theft. And that's part of why we need strong antitrust enforcement. But what our new mayor, I hope will be mayor-elect in New York City, is talking about is how to make that economy work for families. Where is your outrage over a Republican Party that is saying we want to fund even more tax giveaways to billionaires? We want to make sure that Meta gets a check, if this bill passes, for $15 billion, not for anything they do in the future, but for investments they made 3 years ago.
Elizabeth Warren just kind of likes to speak some facts. And she talks about how she's all about the stock markets and being a part of the financial sector and everything. But unfettered capitalism, where people like that, it turns into theft. People run out of ways to make money in any kind of honest way, so they start doing it in illegal and dishonest ways. And they continue to call it legalized because they bought the people that make the laws. Come on, you guys. We're looking at it straightforward in our faces. But Joe Kernan can sit on there with a straight face and be like, hey, this is going to destroy us, right? Because we can't have unfettered, unlimited capitalism anymore. Actually, by the way, some of the things that Mamdani, I heard, is proposing is this slight 1% level of a tax increase on the top 1% of people in that city, in that state, who make tons of money, who have skirted the laws as many kind of ways as they can. We see this big, stupid, beautiful bill going through the House, and I think the Senate, it paused right now because they're trying to continue this same level of theft of Americans' money to go back into their pockets where they have no idea how to spend it. No clue whatsoever. So Elizabeth Warren had to straighten his ass out. But that was the money aspect. I want to go back to more of the racism. Marjorie Taylor Greene posted this because, you know, this is an effective messaging. So apparently that's the, I guess that's the Statue of Liberty covered in a burqa. And she says, this hits hard. Why does it hit hard? Why does that hit hard? It hits hard to show how incredibly ignorant and racist you are. So Zohran Mamdani wins a primary and then gets rid of, I guess, her favorite guy, Cuomo. And now the Statue of Liberty is going to be covered in a burqa. That's so scary. Oh my God, it's so scary. We're going to see the Statue of Liberty covered in a burqa. She was asked about this, I believe, on The Hill. And I was wondering if she'd have a decent explanation for her answer. I mean, for her reasoning for pushing more of that Islamophobic hate. No.
Before we let you go, yesterday morning, which is of course the morning after Zohran Mamdani's win in New York, you did tweet a photo or an image of the Statue of Liberty in a burqa, and you added the caption or comment, "This hits hard." What did you mean by that?
Well, I'm an American woman, and I have all the freedoms in the world to never have to bow to a religion that would force me to cover my body up and only see my eyes and my fingertips. And that is a major threat for all American women. And I think that's something that hits hard for all women.
But what's a major threat to American women? Was it reference to Mamdani's win?
Pardon, I'm sorry.
What were you tweeting it in reference to when you say it's a threat to American women?
That's a Muslim takeover or possibly Sharia law. That is a great threat to every single American woman, and I think that's something all women should never want or allow to happen in America. And it's important to talk about those things.
But it's up to the voters of New York City to elect whoever they wish to elect, whether that person is Muslim or Christian or Jewish or anything else. So what is the evidence?
Well, of course, voters have the right to elect that. And I'll maintain my right to say that I think Sharia law and women being forced to wear burqas is the greatest threat to our freedoms as American women.
Right. But are you opposed to Muslims holding elected office?
I am 100% opposed to Sharia law in America. 100% unapologetically opposed to Sharia law in America.
That's her only answer. I'm 100% opposed to Sharia law in America. Are you opposed to a Muslim man becoming the mayor of New York City, as you're obviously indicating that you are? I'm opposed to Sharia law. Are you opposed to white nationalism? No, she's actually not opposed to that at all. In fact, she said she wants that to be the governing law of the land, because she wants her kind of racism and bigotry to run the country. So she's heaping that on other people that she's afraid of. So she continues to tell her minions of idiots that this is a big scare. Oh my God, there's a brown person with a beard that's actually winning elections because he's speaking to the people. Isn't that weird? I think what we can highlight is these folks that claim to be patriotic Americans are the furthest from Americans that we can find. The same folks who've always talked about freedom and opportunities don't believe in it at all. Because as soon as freedom and opportunities come for other people that they don't like, they're not the real Americans. Freedom and opportunities are for me. You're for providing that for me. I'm a superior being to you. That's what bigotry, hatred, and racism is. That's what white supremacy is. The face of it is that weird looking woman there. White supremacy. I get it. You don't. Your culture, bad. My hateful culture, great. That's how these things work. Only got 20 minutes left. I had a couple more things, but basically, Donald Trump, the president, and also Trump Jr. both tweeted out horrific things that, showing their complete racism. That's why people like Marge Taylor Greene and everyone else and Andy Ogles are saying all the things that they're saying because they're backed up by the biggest racist in the country. He's allowed them to feel like they can do these types of things. But I do want to shift gears to other things, you guys. There was another topic that I want to run through, though, is Cammack. I'm not sure if you guys know, she's a representative from Florida, and she had some issues with her pregnancy. But really fast, I asked you guys earlier what you're drinking on. I think I saw a couple things in here. Give me a couple more rundowns in case I missed it. I think I saw coffee. Boring, bro. I had coffee already. Come on, move by it. Did I see juice, water? Come on, you guys. I need some drunks in the chat a little bit earlier on a Friday, at least midday on a Friday if you're on the East Coast. But on the West Coast, I mean, I guess I can understand it a little bit more. Keep those coming in. I want to see sugar-free iced tea. Pinays says, "I'll take it." I mean, again, I can't complain. I got water. It's boring too. We'll get to drinking later. Someone else, Chris Huggins, says, "I'm doing my 420. Do it, brother. Or it could be sister, KRIS. Do it, though, you guys. May Money, making a Mitchell. No, you're not. Stop it. I know you're on the West Coast. You're out there in Cali. Making a Michelada. Well, cool. I love it. Let's go to Kat Cammack, though, you guys. Let's get this wrapped up before I run up on John's show and start trying to bump heads with him. Representative Kat Cammack, she's a representative from Florida, and she's recently come forward with a story of how she had to deal with pregnancy issues that could have killed her. It kind of sounds familiar because there's many women in the country that had to deal with that. In fact, it was a major part of the Kamala Harris campaign that many folks, I guess, thought was going to be something that would push her over the edge, but apparently didn't. Enough people are still against it and actually celebrated that Supreme Court decision that sent those decisions back to each specific state to do horrific things. But Kat Cammack is a Republican who's all about anti-abortion legislation and pushing these types of things. But she had an issue where she almost died in her state, trying to give birth or actually having a stillborn birth through an ectopic pregnancy. And the doctors there were very much afraid to do anything about it because of the laws that she helped support. Let's let her tell her story.
Ectopic pregnancy is unviable. In my case, I was 5 weeks pregnant. There was no heartbeat, and no ectopic pregnancy is viable. And that's so important because the mother needs care immediately. But unfortunately, women's healthcare has been subject to the worst fear mongering that you can experience. And so they had actually been receiving, these healthcare providers had been receiving pro-abortion lobby ads to the tune of millions of dollars being spent on these ads that were threatening and scaring doctors away from helping women, saying that they could lose their license, they could go to jail. In fact, in the room, I had nurses and doctors showing me these advertisements saying that they felt uncomfortable because they didn't want to go to jail. They wanted to help me, but they felt like they couldn't do anything. So I literally was laying on the table reading them the law. And it dawned on me as I was sitting there with my husband, this is what women are experiencing because of the fear mongering around women's healthcare. And it has to stop. The left absolutely played a role in making sure that doctors and women were scared to seek out the help that they needed. And so I think that this is a wake-up call. My story should really bring forward the national conversation that's long overdue about the lack of maternal health care. And really, I think it's important that we highlight that doctors aren't to blame, women aren't to blame. We need to get the politics out of women's healthcare.
Congressman.
We need to get the politics out of women's healthcare. Republican Representative Kat Cammack just said, after supporting tons of legislation that completely inserts the law into women's healthcare in ways that controls their lives, in ways that people that were a lot more unlucky than she was, that actually died from the exact same issue because doctors were afraid of losing their licenses, being prosecuted, as many of these proposals and laws said. But it's not, in case you guys thought you heard that wrong, it's the Democrats' fault. It's the Democrats' fault for highlighting that that's what they're running to do. They came with them with these fear-mongering ads and these declarations about the law that was put together that said they will be prosecuted and have their licenses taken away if they do anything to assist a woman that's in a traumatic pregnancy, an unviable pregnancy that suddenly she was involved in, and then now she knows how bad it is. Really fast, from The Guardian. Kat Cammack went into this emergency room in May of 24, where it was estimated she was 5 weeks into her ectopic pregnancy. By the way, she's in the state of Florida. Their abortion ban is at 6 weeks, so she barely snuck in. And there was no heartbeat and her life was at risk. Doctors determined that she needed a shot of methotrexate to help expel her pregnancy. But since Florida's 6-week abortion ban had just taken effect, medical staff were worried about losing their licenses or going to jail, as I pointed out. One more part. Cammack looked up the state law on her phone to show the staff and even attempted to, this is the best part, attempted to contact the governor's office. Hours later, doctors eventually agreed to give her the medication. She tried the governor's office, but it was late at night and no one answered. So how many of you guys, if you're in this situation, are sitting on a table, going through a traumatic ectopic pregnancy, learning that you could possibly die from it, and then when the doctors say, yo, these new laws that these legislators passed have me scared to do what I would normally do, which was care for my patient, then how many of you guys can call the governor of the state and be like, you have to do something about this? Do you know who the F I am? It's only rights for them. But she doesn't see the glaring problem with her entire story, talking about how she expected to get preferential treatment to get past the law that she helped pass, to get some kind of care, because now her life is in danger, just because her life is in danger. There was more, because she now that all that went down, she told her story. And again, she's pregnant again and is potentially going to give birth in August of this year. So she's much happier. Congratulations to her and her family. If only other folks had those same opportunities. Because she pointed out after she told her story that she's getting death threats now. Now she's getting death threats. Today, we had to evacuate our offices due to imminent death threats against me, my unborn child, and my family, and my staff. These threats erupted after the Wall Street Journal reported on my life-threatening ectopic pregnancy, a non-viable pregnancy with no heartbeat, that she pointed out. Since then, we've received thousands of hate-filled messages and dozens of credible threats from pro-abortion activists, which law enforcement is actively investigating. In light of these recent violence against elected officials, these threats are taken very seriously. Did you guys notice Kat Cammack didn't point out the specifics of the recent violence against elected officials? Do you know why? Because the recent violence against elected officials was against this state representative in Minnesota, Melissa Hartman, and her husband, as well as another elected official, Democratic elected official in Minnesota, who was also shot along with his spouse, but they survived. Oh, by the way, in case you guys only care about that, and say people like Kat Cammack only worry about that, also Melissa Hartman and her husband's dog was also killed in the gunfire. So she only cares, again, just like about her ectopic pregnancy, she only cares about that. She only wants to get those kind of rights. And now she only cares about her safety as she's getting death threats over her telling this hypocritical story about how now she gets to have a baby. And then she was able to get rescued help because that's what she gets, not anyone else. How much has these Republicans talked about this murderous guy who killed Melissa Hartman and her husband? How much are they talking about it? Matter of fact, the president of the United States was asked about it directly. And he said, I don't think I'm going to call the governor because it's Tim Walz in Minnesota because he's a bad guy. Do you want to bring down maybe the temperature with what's going on with you calling for violence, consistently releasing a few thousand criminals from January 6th as soon as you got into office? No, he doesn't care about those things. The violence only exists on one side, except for when people get murdered like this, and then we just don't care about it. And then you go to the media and go to crying again about death threats that have been put on your life. Because she's the only one. Again, how much are they really going to talk about what's really going on? Ask your Republican friends. Are you guys outraged by what your movement has brought up? This murder of a Democratic lawmaker in Minnesota and her husband, innocent folks. Are you upset about that yet? There's more. Kat Cammack is crazy. In this 90-minute interview, she spoke publicly about her miscarriage for the first time. And she hopes sharing her experience steers conversations towards common ground. Now she's on common ground. I would stand with anyone, Republican or Democrat, and fight for them to be able to get care in a situation where they are experiencing a miscarriage or an ectopic pregnancy, she said. She'd fight for any woman, Republican or Democratic. Is that in any state? Representative Cammack, is that in any state? She said the difficult political environment is to blame for preventing discussions on how to improve women's health care. So those difficult statements are the ones that keep us from having these kinds of conversations. I want to show you guys something, because Kat Cammack, this was quoted by her saying, the wonderful thing about Dobbs versus Jackson, that Supreme Court decision that sent abortion decisions and states to make those decisions, is that it returns this issue to the states. It returns those issues to the states. You know what states do when those issues are returned to them? There's several states that have abortion bans that do not include exceptions for rape or incest, and in some cases, even the life of the mother, specifically what Kat Cammack went through. There's those states that she wanted to send the decision back to, but she still wants to also have this coming together of all Republicans and Democrats to make sure we protect women's reproductive rights when they're in these situations, except for states like Alabama, Arkansas, Kentucky, Louisiana, Missouri, Oklahoma, South Dakota, Tennessee, and Texas. And also in some states like Mississippi and North Dakota, they offer exceptions for rape and incest, but they limit it to the early stages of pregnancy. And by the way, in her state of Florida, what she was reading the law to them about was that her state actually has exceptions for the life of the mother. Oh my God, what do you know? Florida actually cares about the life of the mother for those exceptions. Except in Florida, that exception will also include you to have 2 physicians to verify that this abortion is necessary. What about if it's an emergency situation like what you were in? And if it's in the middle of the night when you can't get in touch with the governor's office, which you apparently have on a speed dial to go straight to get whatever the hell you want. So what if you're dying at 11:30 in the middle of the night, and then 2 physicians are needed to sign off and send it to some kind of approval person's desk before they then give you life-saving treatment to make sure you don't die as your ectopic pregnancy is killing you? They don't think this far because they don't care that far. They care about themselves. So when it's middle of the night, she can get things taken care of. In those states I just listed, they don't care. In her state where she got that help, they only care about it if you have enough documentation. Same thing when it comes to rape or incest. Make sure you have police departments sign off on all these things and give us that police report that many of them also don't even carry out any of these rape kits. They're all sitting stacked up. We've seen that happen in many states. They don't care about the process. They just say things. And when the rubber meets the road, specifically just in her case, give me my help. That's Kat Cammack. Can I show you guys one other person? Let me show you somebody that she didn't care about, had no concern about her life when she went through these issues. I think you guys may have remembered Amanda Zerwowski. She also spoke at the DNC about what she actually went through that nearly killed her, because she's in one of those states, Texas.
Because of the ban in Texas that had just recently been passed and gone into effect, they couldn't do anything because Willow's heart was still beating and I wasn't yet sick. So my life wasn't considered at risk or in danger. So we just had to wait for one of those things to happen, for her heart to stop beating or for me to get sick. So eventually it took 3 days for one of those things to happen. And in my case, I became septic and spent 3 days in the ICU and then another 3 days at the hospital being treated for sepsis, which had and is continuing to have long-term effects on my health and my future fertility.
Even on her future fertility. So again, the group that wants more folks to have babies, the kinds of laws they put into place will keep folks from having more babies, considering that she wants more of them or would like to have one, even though they're still mourning the death of their other baby that almost took their mother's life as well too. She had another aspect of this. I just want to keep playing this because she spoke of this. This is all before the election. These are things that we knew. But Kat Cammack says she wants to bring all these folks together in order to have women's health care. Are you against the laws in Texas since this is what it did to her?
I died on their watch. And furthermore, as a result of what happened to me, I may have been robbed of the opportunity to have children in the future. And it's because of the policies that they support. What happened to me was horrible, but I am one of many. And quite frankly, I'm lucky. I'm lucky that I have a husband that could take me to the hospital. I don't have other children that I had to worry about finding health care for. I have a job that was understanding that allowed me to grieve for 3 days as I waited to almost die. What about all of the women that don't have those same opportunities, that don't have access to health care, that don't have health insurance, that don't have a partner? What about them?
What about them? What about those people? Kat Cammack doesn't care. Their names are not Kat or Cammack. But she will come forward and talk about the death threats that she's getting, that so many lawmakers get. She'll come forward and talk about how Democrats have destroyed the mindsets of doctors that are afraid to do their jobs because the laws that Republicans put in place and celebrated and said are sending back to the states, they confused so many folks. She's upset because it finally hit home for her. Are these representative officials? Do they sound like people that are representing the public? They're representing themselves and they're representing the people that pay them from above. That's all it is. It's the donors, and then it's the fealty to Donald Trump, because he might destroy your career by saying he's a rhino, and then now you're done because they're run by a toddler, an 87-year-old toddler. I don't have much time left, you guys. I know I came on late. I apologize. But listen, man, it's Thirsty Thursdays. We should have Thirsty Thursdays and Fabulous Fridays. But I saw some of the stuff you guys are drinking on. I appreciate you guys being here as well. I don't want to run up on John's time, but I do want you guys to go and let him know that we're doing this watch party every day. Live versions of things that is on my mind. And again, I'm telling you guys every day, I need some ideas, man. I know it's been hardcore politics for the first week. Let's have one hardcore one and maybe something that's a little bit lighter. I just want to know what you guys want to talk about. Because listen, every time I'm on TDR and John and I get to chopping it up, it goes to WWE, it goes to Roman Reigns, and it goes to, all that stuff. And I know you guys aren't all on board for that, but my kids got me back into wrestling, so now I'm watching it all over again. Glad to see you guys. Shout out to everyone. Pennies, May Money, Luck Dragon. Good to see you, Roy Martin. Good to see you guys. Oh, there's Bessie Jackson again. You're still talking, man. Art Vandelay. Good to see you guys. Howard Wilson. Just a couple shout outs to you guys. Love seeing you guys here. We're going to do this on a regular basis. Don't forget, also go over to Jayar Rated. It's also on the YouTubes as well. I haven't put stuff up there this week because you guys got me running and spinning my wheels here so much. But go check out things I'm doing there. You can also catch me on Instagram. Come chop it up with me there. I've been doing a lot more angry posts about all the BS that we're going through every day there too. Come find me. Actually, let me know the topics you want to talk about there as well too. Shoot me a couple of DMs. Let me know what's happening. Glad to see you guys. It's almost 1 o'clock in the East Coast now for John to start his show. Tell him I say hey, and that the watch party is on fire now. We'll see you guys on Monday for a little bit more of it. If something crazy goes on in the weekend, I might be here again to say hi again. Until next time, you guys. Happy birthday, Pop.